Hi, this is Tom Soane, and this morning I'm going to share with you the best piece of property investment advice I ever received. And this was in the early days of property investing for me, and it completely changed the way I saw property investment. It changed the way I did deals with properties, the way I found property deals, negotiated property deals. It changed everything. And I wanted to share that with you because it changed me so much for the positive. And in fact, it changed me in other areas of my life as well. That piece of advice is, it's just a pile of bricks. There's another pile of bricks down the road. I just think it's nothing but positive and beneficial. And it's a really obvious piece of advice. But you know, sometimes you get those little tips and hints and techniques that someone tells you, and advice that someone tells you, and you realize, oh yeah, of course, that's so obvious. Well, it's one of those. But sometimes it takes somebody else telling you something for you to truly understand and absorb the meaning of things, right? You might know this piece of advice, but do you know it? Do you absorb it? Do you get it? Do you implement it? Do you action it every day? Is it part of the way you are? And that's where I think sometimes somebody else telling you something really helps. So this piece of advice was given to me at the beginning of my property investment time. And like I say, it totally changed the way I look at things now. And now I do better property deals. I find better properties. I have no stress with it. It's an easier thing to do once you take this piece of advice and you absorb this piece of advice and use it. But let me explain it a bit more. And I'm going to tell you the story of how I came across that piece of advice because it's totally relevant. Now, I was trying to buy a property. And I was trying really hard to find ways to get this owner to accept my offer. The story is I'd gone to this property and it was a half-done job. The owner had run out of money and hadn't been able to finish the job, so they were trying to sell it. Now, that always presents an issue because if you're going to get another builder in to do the job, they have to go back through all of the stuff that's already done to make sure it's done properly. They don't know how the previous builder has done certain aspects of the job. They don't know if it's done well, safe, regulations. They don't know. So it's going to cost you a bit more anyway because your new builder is going to have to go through all of the stuff that's been done before. Anyway, so what happened in this instance? I was negotiating a price and the owner wasn't accepting that price. Now, it was a price that I'd calculated to return a good deal for me. Then it became emotional. Now, before you switch this bit off, there's always been that advice of don't get emotional about property. But at that time, I think a lot of people don't fully get what emotional means in this instance. And I'll give you this example. So I was trying to buy this house. I'm negotiating with the owner really hard. And I just start negotiating higher and higher because now I've got to win. Now my ego was taking over and now I've got to win this negotiation. I've got to win this deal. And also my brain, my emotions were taking over because there was a good profit in this property. So I start thinking of that profit and I start thinking of the things I can buy with it and the next property I can buy with the profit from this place. And I start thinking about how awesome it's going to be when it's done and the buzz I'm going to get when you get that money in your bank. But that was taking over. So I started negotiating more and more and more in the seller's favor and less in line with my original calculation. But the owner wasn't accepting. And you know what? He was stringing me along a bit because he was giving me signs that he might accept, but he might not. So I wanted to do the deal now. I don't want to wait. I want to do the deal now. So I'm carrying on negotiating with this guy and I'm getting really annoyed about it because he's not accepting. It's a good offer. You should be accepting this offer. Come on. So I negotiate a bit higher and I put some other clauses in there, some terms, and I go higher. And whilst it's still a bit of profit, I started getting to a point where there was still a good profit in the deal had he accepted. Wasn't as good as the original deal. and it wasn't in line with my normal target of a return on investment. So I just spoke to a good friend of mine who's a very, very successful property developer. And we had a good old chat, and I was telling him about my stresses and my strains with this property. And he said to me, Tom, calm it down, mate. It's just a pile of bricks. There's another pile of bricks down the road. And that was it. I realised what I was doing. I realised I was getting involved in the deal. I was getting involved in the property, in the seller. I was getting emotionally involved because I wanted to win. And when you get to that stage where all you want to do is win the deal, the calculation goes out the window. And you know what? All I wanted to do was show this guy that I'm a good property investor, and I can get deals. I can do this. Come on. But no, it's just a pile of bricks. There's another pile of bricks down the road. So as soon as I heard that advice, I said to the guy, Luke his name is, I said to Luke, that's brilliant. You should write a book. He didn't. I don't think he's that way inclined. But anyway, so I might write a book. Sorry, Luke, I'm going to write the book. But so anyway, I took that and I completely changed my mentality when it comes to property investing. Now, I didn't mind if I didn't get this property because there's another pile of bricks down the road. So I didn't mind if I didn't get this property. And I was quite happy to walk away if he wasn't going to do the deal that I wanted, because now I'm unattached. I'm uninvolved. I'm unemotional about it. It's a calculation to me now. Now, I think a lot of people watching this will relate to that, because I think you see deals and you work out your return on investment, you work out your yield, and you work out your costs and your valuations and all of those things. And you do the logical bit and you do the unemotional bit, and then you make your offer based on that. And it's the next bit. After you've made that offer, that's the part where I think some property investors start losing control a little bit. Because now you've got to win. Now you've got to get this deal because it means so much. All right, you've calculated it and you're going to make 30 grand profit. But then when it actually comes to it, you've negotiated so hard and you've carried on and carried on and carried on because you desperately want to get this deal, then now you're going to make 20 grand. But it's still 20 grand, right? Your brain is telling you, but it's still 20 grand. Yes, it is 20 grand. But what if you could have made 30 grand in half the time? And that's where I'm trying to get to. It's just a pile of bricks. There's another pile of bricks down the road. And now I look at a property deal for the pile of bricks that it is. Don't get me wrong, it could be a lovely pile of bricks. It could be a terrible pile of bricks. It could be a pile of bricks that needs a complete renovation. It could be a pile of bricks that's already done. It could be a pile of bricks that's going to make me 100 grand profit. It could be a pile of bricks that's going to make me 20 grand profit. It doesn't matter as long as the calculation is right and I'm not involved. So now when I'm doing a deal, I don't get emotional about it. I don't get stressed about it. I don't get irritable or irritated. I don't get frustrated. I just do a deal that works for me. And I obviously set out the price that I want to pay for this property, and I have a wiggle room. And the wiggle room is, what is my target yield and what is my goal? So my target yield and my desired yield. So my target yield might be, I don't know, I want to make 30 grand out of this place, but I will accept 25. So now that's my total focus. It's just a pile of bricks. There's another pile of bricks down the road. And that gives you massive power when you're negotiating. If you can walk away from a deal, then you get this massive bargaining chip, if that's the right way to describe it. Because when you're negotiating and you're saying to the owner, right, I'll give you 100 grand for the property. And he's saying, no, I want more. And you say, okay, no worries. I can get the sale through really quickly. I'm an investor. I've got no chain. I'm buying cash. I've got the mortgage in place, whatever it is. But 100 grand is my price. This is how I've calculated it. So take it or leave it. Okay, fine. Thank you very much. Walk away. It's just a pile of bricks. There's another pile of bricks down the road. Go away and do the next deal. He might come back to you, might not. But if you've got that attitude of I could walk away from this and it's a property where the seller needs to sell, you might get some results. So I'd love it if you guys could remember that it's just a pile of bricks. There's another pile of bricks down the road. It certainly changed my life. It certainly changed my property investment world. But I did also say that it changed my life too. And it really has, massively, in business. So you take yourself away from the business as an emotional attachment. You don't attach masses of emotion to the business. Now, don't get me wrong. I think most business owners will tell you that, this is my baby. This is what I built. I poured blood, sweat and tears into this. I love it. That's different to emotionally attached. When you make decisions that are purely logical and calculated and a means to your strategy, then that's when you make good business decisions. When you make them based on stress and emotion and frustration and ego, that's when I think you start making bad business decisions. So use that same analogy when you're making business decisions. It's just a pile of bricks. There's another pile of bricks down the road. Do you need that client? There's another client down the road. Do you need that customer? There's another customer down the road. Do you need to get that? Do you need to get that deal done? There's another deal down the road. Do you need to sacrifice your profit on this deal? There's another deal down the road.